Thank you all for joining this meeting. There are 8 participants now. Maybe we can wait for 1 minute, and then I'm going to start my presentation for today. I'm going to present graphical presentations in research. Omnia is going to present journal clubs and PICO or Pico, if I'm not mistaken. And that would be all. The floor is open, of course, if any one of you has any suggestions. So I'll just wait a minute and start my presentation. You can also talk about if any preparations are made for the Q&A sessions that would be held in May, which is less than a month from now.
Maybe you can add also any update about the posters, if teams are able to prepare. Yeah.
Yes.
I think you can start, Khalid, if you want to share your screen. Are you able to?
I think so, yeah. So can you all see my screen? Great.
Yes.
I'm going to present data presentation and interpretation. It's a very important topic in research. It's not just about formulating your research question, collecting your data, and getting your results. Very important aspect is to present these results. If not put in the right context, it might be confusing to readers. They might not be able to make sense of your data easily. So it's a very important topic, and I'm going to discuss the 3 ways you can present your data, which are using text. You all are familiar with that, of course. Using tables or graphs, and I'm going to focus mainly on graphs. I've chosen 7 types of graph that I'm going to go through, some of which you will find very common in most research papers, and maybe 2 or 3 of these graphs might be a bit confusing if you don't know what shape what actually the shape represents. So first of all, text presentation is the most commonly used. Text is the main method of conveying information as it is used to explain results and trends. If quantitative information to be conveyed consists of 1 or 2 numbers, it is more appropriate to use written language than tables or graphs. Of course, let's say you are studying the incidence of breast cancer in Michigan in 2018, then you will have a simple result that would be uh, 100 per year or per that year per se. So you're just going to write that in your result. If you try to convert that into a table or a graph, you will just take more space that is needed, and it wouldn't make understanding the result easier. So in these types of researches, it's just better to put the results in text. If, however, your data is more complicated, you have ranges of different results and different groups or categories, then it's of course better to use table or a graph, because using text would be very confusing and it's going to be a very lengthy result. So it is important to consider what type of data you have and how you are going to present it. If more data are to be presented or other information such as that regarding data trends are to be conveyed, a table or a graph would be more appropriate, of course. Table presentations are the most appropriate for presenting individual information and can present both quantitative and qualitative information. Some of the advantages of tables are that they can accurately present information that cannot be presented with a graph. An example here is this number. This is this can be extremely difficult to put in a graph. So you're going to use a table for that, so you can accurately express this number. So if you have simpler results and many results that are simpler, you can use a graph. But in this example, it's much more better to use a table. Information with different units can be presented together. For instance, blood pressure, heart rate, number of drugs administered, and anesthesia time can be presented together in one table. Um, the third advantage is that tables are useful for summarizing and comparing quantitative information of different variables. There is a lot of overlap here between uh, using tables or graphs. Sometimes your results can be portrayed or conveyed in a table, but also in a graph. In these situations, it's just better to put your data in a table or a graph and try to make sense out of it, and then see if you are going to include both these figures or only one of them. So it really depends on how you want your information to be understood. However, there is a very important thing to consider, is that the interpretation of information takes longer in tables than in graphs, and tables are not appropriate for studying data trends. It takes a longer time to comprehend a table than a graph. In a graph, you can just sometimes view it and you understand the data, but in a table, you must go through all the columns and the rows to understand um, the data. This is an example of a table used in a research. These are the results of a questionnaire. You can see here the items on the left. Biology is one of my three favorite subjects. Students answered yes 75, no 53, and so on. And the second question, did you like the film Love Animals? Um, these are the answers. If you take a glance at these results, you can understand it, and it is better suited for a table. The important thing that I'm going to talk about is the graph presentations. Whereas tables can be used for presenting all the information, graphs simplify complex information by using images and emphasizing data patterns or trends, and are useful for summarizing, explaining, or exploring quantitative data. In the following slides, we describe frequently used graph formats and the types of data that are appropriately presented with each format with examples. The first graph is the scatter plot. I think it's the most commonly used graph. It's used to examine a relationship between two non-sequential variables. Can you see the mouse? Sorry for the interruption.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, okay, great. So this is an example of a scatter plot. Uh, Here on this axis, we have outpatient satisfaction, and here we have time in minutes with doctor in outpatient clinic consultation. The moment you look at this graph, you will see that there is a trend here, an upward trend, which means an association between the time with the doctor and the patient's satisfaction. These dots are our patients or their satisfaction level. So we plot each one of these, and then we can draw what is known as a regression line. The regression line shows us the way if a certain trend exists in our results or not. It's clearly a positive result or a positive trend that is the time spent with the doctor increases, the patient satisfaction increases. So this is a very good example of using a scatter plot in research. This is another example of a plot, the double Y plots. As the name suggests, it's just that they have two different Y-axes allowing variables with different scales to be plotted on the same graph. So as you can see, this is a weight loss trial. This axis is the weight, this axis is the days, and you can see here that you can compare two different sets of results in the same graph. So it's exactly the same idea, but we're just using two different sets of results. The third graph is the bar chart and the histogram. Bar charts are after the scatter plots probably the most widely used type of graphing in science. Bar chart and histogram may look similar, but they are actually different. You can see in this example, this is a bar chart, not a histogram. You can see here these are different fruits, and they are quantifying their numbers. Bar charts we use for categorical data, like the one used here, while histogram, as you can see in this graph, is used for number range. So when you have a continuous data or continuous set of results, you are going to use a histogram. And when you have a categorical data, you are going to use a bar chart. Something to notice here is that when you do draw these charts, there are no gaps here in the histogram, while there are gaps in the bar chart. This is, of course, to reflect that these results are continuous, while these results, there is no temporal relationship that is as in this one. So, of course, February comes after January, but it's a totally different month. We are treating it as a category, but not as a range. So, not as a continuous range. So, uh, this is more appropriate to be used as a histogram. Both of these charts are very easy to comprehend. You can just look at the bars, and you will get the results. The fourth one is the pie diagram. We are all familiar with this one. It's actually very commonly used by media and advertising in general, but it's not that commonly used in research. Pie diagrams are familiar to everyone, much beloved of business graphic packages and the media, but relatively limited use for scientific figures. Well, because actually pie diagrams are not that easy to comprehend visually compared to bar charts. And the thing is that any data that can be presented in a pie chart can also be presented in a bar chart. So always choose the bar graph, not the pie graph, because it's easier to comprehend. If you see in this example here, these are different categories. They are also presented here. So these are the same results, but portrayed in different methods. In this pie diagram, you see here that twigs and grass take about 50% of the total, while if you see the bark and leaves, they look similar, but that's not actually true, because when we convert it into a bar chart, you will see that the bark is lower than the other and leaves, but this is visually not easy to see here in this pie diagram. This is why it's always uh, better to use a bar diagram. Studies of accuracy of judgment indicates that when subjects are asked to judge quantities from pie chart, they are markedly less accurate than when doing so from bar charts. So it's actually easier to manipulate results using a pie chart than a bar graph. So the fifth type of graph is the box and whisker plot. You can see in this example here, we are comparing the lifespan of different dog breeds. What this represents is this box here, for example, the line in the middle represents the median, and the whole box represents the range or the area between the 25th percentile to the 75th percentile. The line below the box here is from 0 to the 25th percentile, and from above here is from the 75th to the 100th percentile. As you can see here, this is the maximum, this is the 75th percentile from here going upwards. This is the median, the line here, and this is the mean. And this is the 25th percentile, and this is the minimum. So what this represents is the range of the results that we got, which is the lifespan of this dog breed. You can see that there's a dot here. Well, this dot represents an outlier. So we have a dog that died at 9 years old, which is an outlier. Most of them live between 10 to 16 years with a median of 13. So this box and whisker plot method is very good at identifying the outliers. As you can see here, in this dog breed, we have 3 outliers, one that lived to 17, one to 16, and one to 11. But the others all fall within the range. Again, this box represents the 25th to the 75th percentile, and above it 75th, below it is 25th. This is the mean, of course, and the line that you see here is the median. So this is the box and whisker plot. It is very commonly used in research. You will see it a lot of papers. We have another method of graphical representation, which is stem and leaf plot. Stem and leaf plot is a way to plot or show a collection of numbers. The stem shows the tens place, while the leaf shows the ones place. What this essentially means is that if you can see here in the stem, these numbers represent the tens place, which means this 5 right next to the 1 represents 51. While here in 8, we have 8, 4, 6, 8. This represents 3 different results. So this is actually not 4, this is 84. This is 86, and this is 88. Here, this is 92, and this is 99, and so on. So that was really what it really represents. Um, One thing that is especially beneficial about using stem and leaf plot is that it makes it easier to identify the mode, which is the result that is mostly repeated in the result that is mostly repeated. Here you can see that we don't have one specific mode, but 3. There is 3 repetitions here, 3 repetitions here, and 3 repetitions here. And each one of these represent one result. So that is what it's used for. It's less commonly used than other ways of graphical representation, but it's important to understand what these results mean. This is the final graphical presentation method I've included, which is a forest plot. A forest plot is mainly used in meta-analysis. It's very important to understand. And you can see here, these are different papers. This is written, for example, by Smith. This is by Jones, Smith, and etc. So while here, this is the odds ratio of these different results. So let's start with this line here that is directly above 1. This is known as the no association line. As you all know, if the confidence interval crosses 1, then the results are statistically insignificant. These lines here represent the confidence interval of the results by our authors. For example, this is the confidence interval of the paper done by Smith. You can see it have a very wide confidence interval, and it also crosses the line of no association, which means that it's statistically insignificant. You can also look at these different papers below. We can find that 2 of them are statistically significant. This one done in 2004, and the one below it that is done in 2009. An important thing to mention here is that these squares, you can notice that they have different sizes. This actually represents the sample size of the study. So it just essentially means that the bigger the square, the more reliable your results are going to be. So you can see that the biggest square here and the one above it is also big. They are both statistically significant, while the 3 other results are statistically insignificant, but they have small squares. The diamond here represents the weighted average of all our studies. So the diamond here represents the results of our meta-analysis. So you can see that it is clearly positive. Of course, it does not cross the no association line, and it is actually far from it with an odds ratio of 2.2. We got this result because the largest 2 papers we included in this meta-analysis are both positive. So they outweighed the insignificant results of these 3 papers. So this is the forest plot. I hope that is it's clear for all of you, and that is all the graphs I have included. Um, if you have any questions about any of these ways of or methods of graphical presentation, please feel free to ask.
Thank you so much, Khalid. This is really great and very helpful. Anyone with questions? Marwa has a question.
Actually, I don't have a question, but I just wanted to thank Khalid very much because this was like really important topic, and it's you presented it in a really good way, and it's very understandable. And thank you so much. I benefit a lot from it. Thanks.
Thank you, Marwa. I also benefited a lot from reading these graphs because I didn't understand some of these graphs until I went through some videos. But thank you. And does anyone have a question or an addition? Omnia?
Hi, Khalid. It was a great presentation, and you understood the topic very well. So that's why you were presenting effortlessly. It's a difficult topic. It's a very difficult topic, and you made it easy for us. I know that you explained already, but can you please explain again the difference between the histogram and the bar chart? Because for me, they
Okay.
look the same.
Okay, I will share my screen again. Open the slide. So the differences between a histogram and a bar chart is that this one on the right is the bar chart. It compares different categorical sets of data. As you can see here, this is January, February, March, April, and May. Actually, I'm sorry because I have included a very bad example because this can be also continuous, but it's regarded here as categorical. If you see here in this histogram, these are ranged. So this here represents 4 to 8, and this is 8 to 12, 12 to 18, and so on. So it's a continuous set of data. When your data is continuous, for example, you are examining age, then you divide it into groups, 0 to 10, 10 to 20, and so on, and then you are going to use a histogram. If you have different categorical data, for example, as you can see here, these are different types of fruits, pineapples, potatoes, tomatoes, and so on. You are going to use a bar chart. They look the same, but they are not, and it's important to know which one you are going to use. I hope this answered your question. If not, maybe someone other can have a different opinion.
It's clear now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any question? Ali?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Khalid, for presenting this very important topic. I have a question about the sixth graph. If you can share the screen for it.
The forest plot?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yes, if you can share your screen.
Just a second.
Okay. No, I meant the section, the leaf and I can't remember the name.
Yeah, the stem and leaf plot. Yeah.
Yes. You said that you can measure the mode, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yes.
So these numbers are all different, right? When you say
yes.
8, this is 88, and the below one is 148, right?
Yes.
So I can't understand. These are different studies or different results from different studies, or what these numbers represent. You can explain more. Thank you.
Yeah. This is just an example that I've put here. It says that it's infant mortality rates in Western Africa. But what I wanted to explain is that how do you interpret these results? This is, for example, let's start with the first one. So, as we said, this is the stem, this is the leaf. The stem shows the tens place, while the leaf shows the ones place. So you can see here that this is one result. This is not one, this is 51, because this is in the tens place and this is in the ones place. You can see here that we have 8 in the tens place and 4 here, 6, 8. So these are 3 results. This one is 84, this one is 86, this one is 88. If we go down, this one is 92, this one is 99. And here we can see that this one is 113, while this one is 114. So you just put the two numbers together and you can see which of these gets repeated the most. For example, the 80s or the 90s or the 110s or the 113s and so on. So this is how to read the results. But regarding when it's used or whether to use it or not, I couldn't find an answer for that. It's not that commonly used, and also it was a bit complicated for me to understand when I'm going to use it. So I just put it here to explain how to read it.
Okay, I see. Honestly, it's the first time I saw it. That's why it's kind of confusing.
Yeah, I think
anyway,
I've seen...
thank you.
Yeah, thank you, of course. So thank you, Ali, for your question. Does anyone else have a question? Or maybe if not, we can... yes, I see Mulha.
Assalamu alaikum. First of all, the presentation really was really amazing. I really liked your relaxed mode So I think everyone who heard right now the presentation, they enjoy that part, which is very relaxed. You are calm, you are in control. That is the most important part of the presentation. And the content-wise, it was very simplified. You immediately explained the things. It was to the spot. Thank you very much. I learned a lot from that points you mentioned. I enjoyed it. Unfortunately, I came a bit late, so I enjoyed the last parts for a spot. But I will definitely return back to the recordings to see the first part to enjoy it even more. Thank you for that part, and yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mulham. Your feedback is very valuable as always. You can view the PowerPoint and I'll send it after. If you have any questions, please send it to me. We can discuss it together. Thank you for your generous feedback. Anyone else? So if we don't have any other question or suggestion, we can move on to the next part of our meeting, which is Omnia's presentation. Feel free, Omnia, to share your screen and start the presentation.
Okay, can you make me the host, please, so I can share my screen? I think I can share now.
Just a second. You can? Okay.
You can see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so my name is Omnia. I will be presenting Pico today. I wanted to prepare both Pico and Journal Club, but the topics are very much the same, so I will just point out the differences at the end. Hello, you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so the objectives of the presentation are to understand what is Pico, how to formulate a Pico question, to answer a clinical question, how to search for Pico literature, and how to judge the level of evidence. So searching for high quality clinical research evidence is an integral part of the evidence-based practice process. One way to streamline and improve the research process for researchers of all background is to utilize Pico search strategy. So what is Pico process? Pico is a format for developing a good clinical research question prior to starting anyone's research, and it's a mnemonic used to describe 4 elements of a sound clinical foreground question. So the Pico is abbreviation for, the P stands for population, the I stands for intervention, the C stands for comparison, and the O is outcome. The question needs to identify the patient or population we intend to study, the intervention or treatment we plan to use, and the comparison of one intervention to another if applicable, and the outcome we anticipate. So this is the Pico model. As I said, Pico is patient or problem, intervention, I, C for comparison, and O for outcome. The Pico process starts with a case scenario from which a question is constructed that's relevant to the case, and it's phrased in such a way to facilitate finding an answer. So usually we tend to generate our Pico questions during the rounds. Whenever we have a challenging management decision, we generate a Pico question. One resident will go and search the literature and came with some answers, and then the team sit down and discuss all the evidence, what is the level, and we decide what we will do for the patient. And I added the case scenario at the end of my presentation. This was my Pico when I was BGY2. So once a well-structured question is formulated, researcher will be in a better position to search the literature for evidence that will support their original Pico question. So we have 7 steps for a perfect Pico search. So we formulate a question, we identify the keywords, plan the research strategy, execute the search, refine the results, review the literature, and assess the evidence. So in terms of identifying the keywords, I will explain it further in my case scenario. But usually, for example, the case scenario I added, it's a case of aspiration pneumonia. We wanted to look for which is better for the patient in terms of enteral feeding. Shall we put him in NG tube or BEC tube? So our keywords will be NG tube, BEC tube, and aspiration pneumonia. And how we search, I think Dr. Nader can elaborate more on this, but usually if we want to search the PubMed database. So there is a specific way to search it. Like I will be looking for all literature regarding NG tube and Beck tube, NG and Beck tube at the same time. So usually there is a specific searching method for the MedHub. If we want to look for the topic that contain both NG tube and Beck tube at the same time, we put nasogastric tube, capital and, after it we put the BEG tube. If we want the topics that have NG or Beck tube, we put nasogastric tube, capital OR, then we put the Beck tube. As such, this will give you the whole data available at PubMed, for example, and then you start checking what studies suits your Pico question and excluding the others. And after that, we refine the result. Then we check the level of evidence. So the Pico example, the case scenario is we have a 77-year-old male with history of dementia, all CVA, recurrent admission due to aspiration pneumonia. He presented to the ED with fever, cough, and frequent choking episodes during meals. At the baseline, he's bedbound, fully dependent. For feeding, he was taking oral puree diet given by the caregiver. In his physical examination, he was ill-looking and weak, cachectic, slightly febrile, requiring 2 liters of oxygen to maintain his saturation above 94%. He has copious oral secretions. His chest, he has bilateral transmitted sound with coarse crackles at the right lower zones. His labs was showing leukocytosis, high CRP, and slightly AKI, creatinine 130. His baseline was normal. His chest X-ray was showing right lower zone opacity, suggestive of consolidation. So this patient was diagnosed as a case of aspiration pneumonia, started on IV fluids, antibiotics, and everything was sent there, and full sepsis workup was sent for him. Unfortunately, the patient failed the swallowing assessment, and decision was to start him on enteral feeding was made. So now our concerns were what methods of enteral feeding is suitable for this particular patient, NGT or BEG tube. Do enteral feeding methods decrease the risk of aspiration or not? So hence we formulated our Pico question. Aspiration pneumonia is the most common cause of death in patients with BEG and NG tube feeding. And our Pico question was whether patients on Beck tube, percutaneous endoscopic gastrostomy tube, have a lower risk of aspiration than patients on nasogastric tube. So you know that the NG tube, this is a normal one that goes from the nares to the gut, and the BEG tube, this is a jejunostomy tube or gastrostomy tube. It's inserted endoscopically or by interventional radiology, and it's in the abdomen. So, sorry. I looked at the literature, so I found 2 studies: percutaneous endoscopic gastrostomy versus nasogastric tube feeding for adults with swallowing disturbance. And this is a Cochrane database systematic review published in May 2015. So in this case, what will be our Pico question? Our Pico question will be, the population is adults with swallowing disturbances. The intervention group will be patients on Beck tube. The comparison group will be patients on nasogastric tube. And we will look at the risk of aspiration. This is the outcome. So this study included 9 randomized controlled trials comparing BEG versus NGT for adults with swallowing disturbances or dysphagia and indications for nutritional support with any underlying disease. The primary outcome was intervention failure, which is feeding interruption, blocking, or leakage, non-adherence to treatment. Intervention failure occurred in 19 out of 156 patients in BEG tube group and 63 out of 158 patients on the NGT group. And the results, p-value of 0.00 in favor of the BEG tube. There was no statistically significant difference between the comparison group in complications. The p-value was 0.93. The conclusion, Beck tube was associated with a lower probability of intervention failure, suggesting that endoscopic procedure is more effective and safer as compared to NGT. But there was no significant difference for mortality rates between the comparison group and pneumonia, irrespective of the underlying disease. So this is the first study. In terms of intervention failure, BEC tube was superior. It's not failing because you inserted endoscopically. But at the end, it's an invasive procedure. Apart from the NG tube, you can do it bedside. In terms of mortality rate, it's the same. No difference in terms of pneumonia or any underlying problems. The second study is percutaneous endoscopic gastrostomy tube versus nasogastric tube feeding in patients with oropharyngeal dysphagia increases risk of pneumonia requiring hospital admission. This is published in the Nutrients Journal, 5th of December 2019. The Pico question is, the population is patient with oropharyngeal dysphagia. The intervention group is patient with on BEC tube. The comparison group patients on nasogastric tube, and the outcome is the risk of aspiration. So patients were stratified by endoscopic observation of the pooling secretion in the pharyngeal region. So the control group have less than 25% pooling secretion filling the piriformis sinus, and the pharyngeal group 25 to 100% pooling of secretions in the piriform sinus. The laryngeal group identified as pooling secretions entering the laryngeal vestibule. So an endoscopic exam done prior to the comparison. The demographic data, swallowing level scale score, and pneumonia requiring hospital admission were recorded. The results were patients with NGT, which were 97, had a significantly higher incidence of pneumonia than those patients with BEC tube in the pharyngeal group and the laryngeal group, which with a statistically significant difference. The conclusion, BEG is better choice than NGT feeding due to decreased risk of pneumonia requiring hospital admission, particularly in patients with abnormal amounts of pooling secretion accumulation in the piriform sinus or leak into the laryngeal vestibule. So now I will open the discussion. Which one will you choose for your patient, NG or BEC tube? Because we have like kind of conflicting evidence. So what do you think, guys?
Hi. I would think in this situation, I will individualize depending on the patient's situation. For example, if he's like someone who is risk of surgery very high, I might be more reluctant to consider BEC tube. But if everything is okay, I'm gonna go with the BEC tube, for example.
So just this is a good thought, Marwa, but for the BEC tube, it doesn't have much of a surgical risk. Actually, BEC tube can be inserted, as I said, by both GI team, and the patient will need endoscopic insertion. Maybe if the patient has some is high risk for endoscopy, this is a different thing, but IR team, which is a very minimum procedure, can be done by interventional radiology as well. Because most of the patients who are requiring BEC tube are elderly with multiple comorbidities, they are bedbound, or even if they are young, most of them are patients who are in vegetative state.
For me, I think I would pick BEC tube. The major cause of mortality, I think, aspiration pneumonia, and the risk is high with the NG tube. And as you said, the risk of, there is like very small risk of any procedure or surgery for the BEC tube. So I would prefer the BEC tube.
Okay, thank you, Azza. Any other decision?
Yes, from the data presented, I think I will go with BEC tube. Thank you.
Okay. I can't see anybody who's raising his hand, so anybody else?
I think I will go for BEC tube because it, oh, sorry.
No, go soon.
Because it has a, as you mentioned also, that it has a probability of less probability of intervention failure, and it is probably effective and safe. But mortality-wise, I think there is no difference between both. So in that case, PEG-tube is better in considering other stuff. Go ahead, Ali. I'm sorry.
No problem. I agree with you all, but I think we need to know something else. Does the patient have pharyngeal pooling or pharyngeal pooling? Because I think if there is no pharyngeal or pharyngeal pooling, there is no association. Maybe I misunderstood something.
So this is the thing. That's why I initiated the discussion, and this is the point of the Pico. Everybody will look at the evidence from his perspective. Okay, so for our patient, as I mentioned in the physical exam, the patient was cachectic, and the rule for PEG tube insertion is the patient should have a normal albumin, or at least albumin above 25. So I think at that time our patient albumin was 19, and this is not easy for the PEG tube healing when the patient is having low albumin. But for long-term care, and Dr. Nadir can help us with the discussion, NGT is very easy to insert, but the thing is that if the patient is agitated, demented, they tend to pull the NGT. For me, from my practice point of view, for elderly patients who are NGT or are on NGT feeding, we're almost reinserting the NGT every few days because the patient will pull it off. For the PEG tube, I think it's a very good option. The handling by the nursing staff or the family is easier with the PEG tube rather than the NG tube. It doesn't tend to block very frequently the PEG tube, and we don't change it unless it's malfunctioned or it's not working. Some patients are in PEG tube for 5 to 10 years. But as I said, the challenge about the PEG tube itself is the insertion, if the patient fit the criteria for PEG tube insertion or not. The other thing about it is that overall, I presented only 2 studies, but most of the studies, the literature review I did, they lean toward there is no difference in terms of aspiration pneumonia or mortality between the NGT or PEG tube. There is no significant difference. And this is where the importance of checking the level of evidence we have comes. So it's very easy. I'm presenting the Pico. It's very easy for me to direct you to the thing that I want. If I want to insert PEG tube for this patient, I will just bring all the studies that's leaning toward PEG tube insertion, and at the same time the NG tube. That's why we need to examine every single data published about the same topic. Okay, and this is the level of evidence. So the weakest one is the expert opinion. Then after that, case reports, case control studies, cohort, randomized control trial, and systematic reviews. And the strongest ones are meta-analysis. Okay, and that's all. I promised to talk about the journal club. So journal club is the same as the Pico, and even in the journal club, you need to have a Pico question to be answered. But usually in the journal club, it's a one study. You bring it and you do it in the Pico format, but we do critical appraisal, the one we did all over the last few weeks. Okay, but it's the same concept. Thank you so much. Anybody has a question?
Thank you so much, Omnia. This was truly a great presentation. Personally, I've learned a lot from it. The fact that we really need to do a thorough research and not just depend on a result of one research. You highlighted that very well. Thank you so much for that. It's very well put together. Please, anyone, if you have any questions for Omnia or suggestions, you can raise your hand.
Sorry, I didn't find the raise hand sign.
No,
Thank you,
it's okay. You can just go ahead.
Thank you, Omnia. It's a very nice presentation. It's very understandable, interesting, actually. So I really liked it. And I have a question like for journal club. So what do you mean? Like it is like case by case discussion, something like that?
No, the thing is that for journal club, for example, it wouldn't be my Pico question will not be like comparison NG tube versus back tube. It will be like NG tube and risk of aspiration pneumonia. Then usually we tend to have the least data about it. Like if there is New England Journal of Medicine, JAMA, whatever it is, you take the last study only. For example, if I want to present the back tube a risk of aspiration, I would pick the last study only, the one I presented now, published in 5th of December 2019. I think this is the last one about back tube and aspiration pneumonia. So you will present it and you for the audience and you will do critical appraisal on it. And decision will be back tube or not back tube versus NG tube. There is no comparison in journal club.
Okay, thank you. I got it now. Okay, so basically the most recent evidence, it is like we have to use the most recent evidence and what is new. So by that way we can update ourselves like that.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumi. Anyone else have a question for Omnia or any point that needs clarification? Ali, you can go ahead.
Yes. I would like to thank Omnia for this great presentation. I really like it. I like the way you try to involve us all, or some of us, by asking the question and then answering it in a very good way. So I think that will stick to my memory. So thank you.
Anytime, Ali.
Thank you, Ali. Yeah, I also think that it grabbed everyone's attention. It's a great way of presentation. Really, thank you, Omnia. So, anyone else? I think I saw Marwa raising your hand. Or anyone else have a question? Lubaba, you can go ahead.
Yeah, hello, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Khalid and Umnia, for the presentation. It's really very informative. Both of you did a great job. I enjoyed both presentation and we learned a lot from it. For Omnia, I second Ali's comment. I like the interaction and making us engaged. Tired, we are still fasting, so that's really good point. We need to continue like that. So I guess like I have a suggestion, since you are the only one, I think, or Khalid as well, and Ali, you are in the practice, maybe you can, for the journal club from now on, you help us with most relevant topic that we can discuss. I enjoyed your presentation very well and the case as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Sure.
Lubaba. Go ahead, Omnia.
Go ahead, Khalid. Complete, no problem. Go ahead.
Yes, we will. Yeah, I think we've all suggested to continue doing the critical appraisals. We're going to pick a topic for the next week, and we'll continue doing that because it's very helpful, as Omni highlighted today. Thank you, Lubaba, and Omni, you can say whatever you want.
Thank you so much, Lubaba, for your feedback. And I have few journal clubs. I presented them throughout residency. I can share them with you, but I was not sure about the topics. This one was related to geriatric. I don't know if you all like medicine or no.
Yes,
I'm biased toward internal medicine, so.
Yeah, my suggestion that since we're doing geriatric research, we should focus on geriatrics. And still, older population are growing and no more most of the geriatrician out there. So
exactly.
We need to learn about that.
The ugly truth is 60% of our patients in internal medicine are geriatric population. So there is not much difference between the most of the journal clubs are directed toward population above 65, which are by definition geriatric. So no, I don't mind. If I'm not on call, I will try to present few journal clubs.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Omnia. Anyone else have a question? Mulham, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Omnia, for the great presentation. I really enjoyed it, and thank you for explaining the Pico model, what its basis, what its importance, population, intervention, comparison of control and outcomes. So we learned a lot from this presentation. And as Ali and Lubaba mentioned, it's very engaging, as well Khaled mentioned that. So it's definitely very much engaging. That allows us to be more active, as well as said, we are fasting. So yeah, we're kind of a bit sleep at some points, but we're not, frankly. It's very engaging presentation, both for Khaled as well as Omnia. Thank you very much for explaining your presentations and 2 Pico models and how to formulate a Pico question. That I think is very crucial. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mulham.
Thank you, Mulham, as always. And does anyone else have a question, or maybe we can go to discuss what we can do about the AGS, the coming Q&A sessions. So
Can I just
yes,
add
please.
one comment? Thank you again, Khalid, and thank you, Omnia. Both of them, good presentation. Just I want to add to Omnia's last comment. I mean, yeah, on geriatric, you will face a lot of questions, and Pico will help you. The journal club also will be a good way to update your knowledge about what's going on. So in geriatric, in practice, we face a lot of patients with PO intake problems, dysphagia problems. So the question of how to introduce feeding, tube feeding, and there are a lot of literature regarding the risk with that. Pneumonia is one of them. So it's a good topic to discuss in the future. Thank you, Omnia.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Nader. Yes, it is, and also as Omni said, the clinical work in medicine is becoming more and more about geriatrics, so it's really important.
I want to add that it's not only internal medicine, actually. It's all specialties. Surgery, for instance, you will see a lot of patients in geriatric like population. For the kids, you will have their parents busy, so grandparents will bring the kids to your office, so you will have some interaction with this. Thank you.
Yes, exactly. So it applies to almost all medical disciplines, so it's really important. So
yeah, and
you go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's very, it will be very beneficial for the future resident like Mulham, Marwa, and Khalid. They will be joining residency soon, right? And also for the, like, for us, like, I mean, the people who will apply, it's, we are sometimes during interviews, we are supposed to ask or like present a case presentation or something. So we'll have some idea, like, or like we are, asked to attend a journal club, right? So we'll have a very good idea, like how does that work. So, and I think Omnia is over prepared for her residency. So like as a resident, so yeah, I think she can do that very well. Thank you, Omnia, again.
Yes, thank you, Sumi. I also agree that this presentation shows that she's really overqualified for that. Thank you so much. Ali, I see that you raised your hand. Is that from before, or do you have a comment now?
No, it seems like it's from last time.
No, it's okay. So maybe we can discuss other things. The AGS Q&A session is coming. Do you guys have any suggestions, particularly to prepare for these sessions? Or have any of you maybe started preparing for the Q&A session? Also, Lubaba and Marwa, who presented in AMDA. If you both of you have any tips for those of us who are going to participate in the Q&A session, please feel free to say your points.
I can share the experience that we had with AMDA. I'm not sure about the preparation for AGS, if it is similar or not, but since it's virtual, you will be in a room and you will expect judge or people coming into your room and ask you questions about your presentation, about the study that you had. And you just be prepared to answer those questions. So what I noticed more about the data and the finding. So they need like the update for the science maybe. So just focus on that area. This is like what I can say about the thing. So, and don't raise your hopes so high that you have a lot of people. My experience, they were not a lot. Maybe for AMDA, it was like ahead of the conference time. So people were not keen to join before the conference days, I think. But I'm not sure for the time for the AGS as well. Is it within the conference time or
yes,
prior to the conference?
It's actually pre-conference also. The Q&A session, yeah, will be pre-conference.
Mm-hmm.
But as you said, it's hard to estimate how many you are going to deal with. So it's important to prepare ahead. Maybe we can go over the videos again, and those who are participating in the Q&A session can really go into the details and expect any question. For example, references for any information you mentioned. Maybe we should do that. So, Marwa, please feel free to join me.
Yes, one thing is that I wasn't like prepared for or wasn't sure like about the process in AMDA is that you actually a referee joins and asks you to present to him. So this is what happened during the Q&A session. So whoever already presented is going to be like might be asked probably because this is one of the ways that they can actually evaluate the poster. So they're gonna be waiting for you to present. So make sure that you're ready to present that. I don't, as Ubaba said, I was expecting that a lot of people like are gonna join or ask questions. There were none. Only the referee. So they introduce themselves and then we just like present a comment, and then they had questions accordingly. The case report I can share with Ali and whoever is going to be presenting or in the Q&A session. Specifically in the case of the case report regarding how did we evaluate the fact that, for example, the number of outbursts decreased? Did we have a specific like tool to say the decrease or not? So it was just like some few questions about the topic itself. So just you need to know the in and out, the details, just to be prepared. And it's not like a lengthy process or like very like long questions, just like simple few questions just to fill in the gaps if anything that's not clear for them. I believe that's about it. I just want to add one thing. Lubaba actually contacted the AGS and asked about the fact that Can someone join the Q&A session who were not like presenter or so? This is what we assumed initially, but they said the Q&A session should be like the one that are going to join the session should be the ones who presented the case. So Shubhaba can share the email with you guys and just like this is their answer. So we need to be ready for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marwa, for that. Then we might need to reconsider who is going to present in the Q&A session. If that is what you got, it clearly indicates that the ones who present are going to attend the Q&A session. So as a groups or as the different abstract leaders, you can plan what you are going to do about this. Maybe Dr. Nader, you have an opinion regarding how we should prepare for the Q&A session?
So in the past, when there are actual posters, what happens, you stand by the poster, and then during usually lunchtime or breaks, the people after the lectures, they will come and look at your posters. And they usually a 2-hour window where the judges will come and go over all the posters, and then they will ask you. So basically, you will present again the key point, not the whole from A to Z, but why you got that the idea, and then the background, and the interesting part of your data findings, the results part. So they may, as Marwa mentioned, they may ask a few questions to fill the gaps. Sometimes they may ask the importance of that, what will happen and how it will impact you or others in your practice in the future, something like that. So there are a couple of questions that are standard question, similar to the interview question, but it's standard just for every poster to ask a few questions. And then there are modified questions about each different poster. They will ask the implication or the importance or something like that. They will have a check list, maybe 5 questions in total. And then out of this list answers, they will collect and find who got the most interesting or complete answers and whatever, and then decide who is the winner, first, second, or something like that. So that's in the past. Now it's virtual, so they will have the, I think, time to review the poster. I think it will be, they check the checkpoint before they come to you. I assume it will be a few minutes, less than 5 minutes with each poster. And then they will try to answer or ask you so that you can answer to fill in the gaps if there are any in the poster that they didn't understand or they have unclear idea. So you might expect some questions from the judges. And compared to AGS, I think the number of participants in AGS is bigger. So I assume the numbers might be different as far as who will view and come to look at your poster during the sessions. I might be wrong, but you might expect some more viewers and more questions from them if there is some interest there. But again, as Miro said, don't get your hopes high. If no one showed up, you are off the hook. You did the work, and that's what you can do. back to last point of Marwan Lubaba. So if they say only the presenters are the one who are allowed to join for Q&A, I think that's related to the judges. But again, if they say clearly that's the only people who present, we're gonna go that route. So unfortunately for the rest of the team for each poster who were planning to attend and participate, I think that will not be happening for you guys, but I appreciate your hard work and your participation. At least you know the process, and in the future you will be prepared, and hopefully you do your best. We can be involved in different projects as well in the future. So stick to what they told you, Lubaba, and share with the project leaders. So whoever presented, maybe you can practice again. And if Lubaba or Marwa have some questions that you remember they asked you about the posters, that's not like to the point, maybe some different questions, maybe you can share with the team, the project leader, so that they might have similar questions or similar areas. Sometimes they are standard questions, but anyways, I don't know who will be the judge and what list they gonna use. But I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Sure.
Thank you, Dr. Nader, for sharing your experience. It's always very helpful for us, really. And Lubaba or Marwa, who received the email, maybe you can send to them back and ask them if the presenter can be there plus other co-authors or not, and if so, how many are allowed.
There is some noise from sorry. Actually, I asked them about whether the Q&A session people need to be registered. So that's at that point they answered me. The presenters are allowed for the Q&A. So it's part of it, the registration for the AGS itself. So, sorry, what was your question? You want me to reply back and ask about what they were saying?
Yeah. So you've said that they clearly said that the one who presented the video abstract should be participating in the Q&A session. But is only one person allowed to participate? For example, if that presenter plus other co-author, a co-author that haven't presented the video, can be there or not?
Okay. My guess is no, unless that co-author is registered for the AGS. But I can reach back and confirm about that.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, and also thank you for sending that email and providing us this information. Yeah. So maybe if any of you have any suggestions regarding how we are going to prepare for the Q&A session, which is less than a month from now, we can also discuss this in the WhatsApp group. Marwa, I see that you raised your hand.
Hi. Yes, regarding, I think the part where the presenter actually is present is somewhat beneficial because he would be the best one to present to a referee. For example, because like he already presented it, he practiced a couple of times, he or she or them together, whatever combination. So it's gonna be like easier to if there's a referee requesting a presentation, that they would be the best to do that. Regarding the questions, honestly, yes, we can ask, as you said, we can send again, but I think Rubaba can share their email. I think what I understood from it is just like only the presenters are going to be there and they have to be registered. This is the thing, exactly what they mentioned. So I think it's clear. But anyways, I think we can like collectively, each group, each subgroup can work on like anticipating what questions can be asked, and trying to find the best answer. Just like if anything, I would say they would ask things like related to, like as I said, anything that's not clear in the presentation itself or in the results that need to be more explained. You better work on that because they're gonna probably, if there's any questions, it's gonna be in that specific area. And yeah, for me, this is it. I don't think I have much to add. If you have any questions, I will be more than happy to answer at any time.
Yes, thank you so much, Marwa. I think it's very clear as you mentioned it. Maybe we also need to look for the deadlines for the registration so we do not miss it. I think, as you said, who is going to participate in the Q&A session should be registered for the conference. So maybe I've had some a confusing experience with their website. When I go into their website, of course, thanks to Dr. Nader, he provided us with the membership for the AGS. It shows an ad that says register for AGS 21. And when I go to that page, it was very confusing for me. I don't know if I was registered for the AGS or not. So maybe some of you went through the website and have an idea about what I'm saying.
I believe they sent an email and I found it actually in my spam. I can share it in the group. I think this is like the email confirming the registration and the payment done for the specific registration for the conference. So I can share it in the group. This way you will know. Like if you, I actually found it by accident in my spam mail. So if you didn't or don't recall finding a specific email, you can make like a search in your mail by maybe AGS and see through all the mail that you receive from them, you will find actually a confirmation. But honestly, I don't have much, I can't help with the website. I don't know much detail about it. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Marwa. Yeah, I will go into the emails and check. I think, yeah, there was an email that says that you are registered, but when you log in into your account, it says to you that you should register, but that was the thing that I think was confusing. So, anyways, thank you both for Marwa and Lubaba for being so mindful and let us know of all this information. If anyone else has a suggestion maybe regarding this topic, and if no, maybe we can discuss next meeting's agenda. And if you have any suggestions, please feel free to say so.
One suggestion I would say when you are talking about the next meeting, maybe Khalid Adam, who run the last meeting, if you can log into the app, if you don't mind, while we're discussing what's gonna be. So I'm not sure who will be leading the next meeting. So then you can discuss about the topic, who will present what, and if there is any other suggestions of. Thank you. Sorry, I can't. My computer is. I can't access the app, so I can look who.
I will be leading the next meeting on next Saturday, and I'm also participating in the AGS Q&A sessions. So it will be like more convenient that we can discuss the topic even more.
Okay, thank you, Hassan. So we are going to coordinate the next week's meeting. I think we already had suggestions. I'm going to go through it now. We discussed that last week, that Marwa will present evidence-based medicine, but is the next week suited for you, Marwa, to present that, or maybe you want to present that other time?
Yes, I don't have a problem. Actually, Omnia covered a good portion of that, so it's gonna be somewhat easy and a small presentation.
Yes, thank you so much, Marwa, for your efforts as always. And also, Ali suggested that he will present professionalism. Ali, is the next week good for you, or do you want to present it in another week?
Yeah, it's good that I present it next week.
Great. So we already have two presentations for next week. Maybe in the meantime, until next week, we should really try to incorporate the critical appraisal. Khalid Adam did an amazing job at that, and I think we should continue it if we have the time, of course, and if you are willing and interested. We can also check the videos that we submitted to AGS for potential questions. All of you can go through the videos, and maybe even we can. I think if I'm not sure if I'm correct or not, Dr. Nadir, but in the app, maybe we can have a comment, a feedback section like you suggested before in the My Geriatric slides, that you can see that you can comment right below the video any questions or any areas of potential questions you might think of.
I can add that if it's not there already. But yeah, if everyone can look at the videos, it's only 5 minutes, maybe less than that. You look, and if you have questions, something unclear, or any comments, any addition that you want to share with the team, the presenters, I think that would be great. Thanks.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Nadir. So we have the agenda ready for the next meeting. So before we go ahead with our rest of the day, any of you have any questions or suggestions?
I just want to add a couple of points. One is we don't want to forget about the statistics, the methods that you want to use as well. So maybe in the future, we're gonna restart using some of the SPSS or maybe just Excel or some to look at how we can analyze data, the more common ways, and then how to present the way you just mentioned, these graphs or tables. We don't have to do it, but we can get it from already published journal to look at how they present this. And if we did our data analysis and we present it similar, how we can put it in a graph or table, something like that. This one about the data, and the other part about the writing skills or writing to write an article, for instance. We talked about the introduction, about some of the literature review, I think. But we need to also talk about how you put your results and how you put your discussion, and the end part of how you want to give in your last part what's the, if you are doing let's say a study, what's the weakness of your study, or what's the area where you want to improve, something like that. So there are certain part of when you're writing a paper you want to cover. So if we can also down the road discuss these parts, that would be great, just for the future. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Nadir. Yeah, we can maybe discuss that next week and put it in the agenda for the week after to go over the statistics again. I think Khalid Adam, you can go ahead. You have any.
Yes, I just have, sorry, Dr. Nader, I didn't hear your question earlier. I just want to suggest that we can start about the questions and answer for presentations. Maybe we can start in the WhatsApp group just to send the poster, and then we can, all of us, everyone, we can ask possible questions, and the team leader can collect those questions. And maybe during the meeting, we can just come to discuss them here with Dr. Nadir and all of us to have the answers. Like every 2 to 3 days, we can discuss one poster. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Khalid. I think it's a great suggestion. If you all agree on that, of course. Maybe in this week or up until the next meeting, we can do that. We write down the questions and we can go over them after Ali's and Marwa's presentation. And to see, of course, Dr. Nadir's opinion on these questions and answers, of course. I think, yes, we can incorporate that into next week's meeting. Lubaba, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Fatma, for the lot of talk today. I just do have an update regarding the COVID vaccine awareness sessions. So far, I think Azza, Ali, and Khalid Osman, 50-50, interested on the project. I did reach out to Sava Media. Actually, it's not a one-step process. They will need to find out who is going to be in the session, starting by sending their pictures, a little bit about them, and then like a prove session, kind of rehearsal. Then after that, we can hold the awareness, the COVID vaccine awareness for the Sudanese community. So I just wanna know who are interested in the process, and I suggested that most likely after Ramadan because of the time conflict between Sudan and here, and I want to hear what's Dr. Nadir's preference as well. Because this time,
I was distracted a little bit, so maybe I missed some part. Did you talk to or contact Sapa?
Yes, I did.
And what they said? Sorry.
So it's not a one-step process. They will need like to know who is going to be, who are the guests and who is the host and all of this. For the technical preparation, we need to hold a rehearsal session first to find out all of the glitches, and then on the day, like need to be like a week ago ahead of the process itself. So, and I suggested for them, it's most likely after Ramadan is better because of time difference when we are targeting our folk in Sudan. So I think this time is prayer and more worshiping. So
I agree. That's good.
Yes, thank you, Lubaba. Regarding that, I also agree that after Ramadan would be more appropriate due to the time differences, as we said. We can manage to do that. I think the literature on COVID are very large, considering that it's a disease that took only 2 years. But we can use this time in Ramadan, of course, to maybe review a paper every other day and be ready for that. Thank you for taking the lead on that. Really, we do appreciate it.
So my understanding is something brief and what is common, like in the community, questions common in the community and why they are hesitant in having the vaccine, just to help clarify that part. It's not like a deep scientific presentation. I think a lot of experts in the field did these presentations before, just like we are helping our community understand the needs for it. So it shouldn't be something very deep.
Yeah,
and mostly I think, mostly I think it's an opening for the audience to raise questions, and if the presenters can answer the questions more or less to clarify things, because there are misinformation there and some hesitance. They say it's just vaccine hesitancy. So if we can push them or answer their question, maybe they can go ahead with vaccination. And it shouldn't be just in Sudan. Maybe we can target audience here as well. I'm not sure how the presence of this in communities here. Maybe in your own subgroup or WhatsApp group, you can ask your friends, relatives around here. And if you sense or if you think it's a big problem, maybe we can target people here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Nader. Sumi, sorry you raised your hand earlier. You can go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Lubaba, I communicate with you, but regarding that, so what I can help you is like I have some experience. I'm not like still did not start yet, but I wrote a proposal for that, like a vaccine awareness program in Detroit that is mostly in the underserved community where the African American population. So I had to collect the data from Detroit City, the government department, that how is the vaccination rate for African American people and the total population, and not only COVID vaccine, the other vaccine as well, like polio, measles, DPT for the children. And that when I was collecting those data, it appears that because COVID vaccine appears just 2 months ago, for the local, like for the all population, it was like they are just targeting the most vulnerable population first, high risk population, like priority group. But before that, it seems to be like they have the underserved population also, the vaccination rate is also declined, like let's say polio and measles. So the public health authority, they are thinking like if it is keep going like that for another 2 years, basically in another 3 years, we are inviting another pandemic like measles. Because in order to develop the herd immunity, we have to vaccinate at least more than 95% of the population. So which is a huge public health burden. So when I contact them through my master's program, they are very it seems to be a very exciting program for them, that we can talk about it, like why they are resistant, what are the barriers not to take the vaccine. It can be like, probably parents lose their jobs. So they thought like, okay, if we have to give our children vaccine, we have to pay for it. Probably some people does not have a vehicle. Some people does not have idea like, oh no, I don't want my children to have COVID. Instead, I'll stay home and do not let them take the measles or polio vaccine. But we can make sure that wherever you go, and then it will be given to you very safely and like or whatnot, something like that. So there are so many other hesitancy as well besides COVID vaccine. So they are very, I think they are very excited. And then I submit my proposal, and it accepted for a fellowship through a Detroit went. I think Dr. Nadir might have known that. It's called Detroit Owen County Authority Health. So it is a government organization, and they gave me some. It's a fellowship, means like they provide my one semester tuition in order to work for that. Yeah, so that's exciting though. But the thing is, I can probably, as it is my part of my master's program, so that's why I probably not able to share all the things with you, because that's the university rules. But I can definitely discuss those things, or if it's possible, then I can present here, like, how did I develop my idea, and how will I go move forward. It is, I have my mentor. I have two mentors. One mentor is my academic mentor, who is like a public health faculty at MSU, and one is my local like a family medicine practitioner in the like insight mentor. That is like the site mentor is like he has all the patients, access to patients, so I have to talk to the patients or parents like what are their barriers, why they are hesitant to have it, and like, what type of work need to do. So I think you have to ask yourself 3 questions. That's how I developed my idea. Like what kind of people are what kind of people need the greatest help? Like probably in Sudan, you might think like the people who are living in city, their vaccination rate probably high, they know. But the people who are living in underserved area or village or like little sub area, probably they do not have much idea about how vaccine works. Is it safe? What are the side effects, risks, benefits? So you can like, target to those population, and through SAVA, probably you can reach out to them through different community organization. Like I am reaching out to this like people, like, through public, like a local public health authority health community, right? So like through this, and then, like you can, it can be a question and answer session, like, what do they think about vaccine, why they are not want to take the vaccine, what's their thoughts, and then we can develop our idea more about it, like what are the things we need to work. And also I search like a couple of other papers regarding that, like what are the interventions probably develop need to improve in that specific group of population, which might give like, the increased vaccination rate. So like it's called so other thing is like, if it is from the, like, say I am probably the physician who is treating them, or like a pediatrician, if they talk with their patients regarding the vaccine, they feel more trustable, right? But when I say something to others, probably they might think like, oh, we are from medical background and all that, but like, they might not trust us, right? Because the information has to come from a designated and like, that population. So you might target also like work with doctors and nurses and all that, then, even educate them also, or like providing them some materials that we can do this on behalf of this population. So this is, I think this is a very good is the right time to do these things, because this is like this is a very important things to do for the society, and it's globally these things needed, I guess. My another problem is I can join you, but is it like a like my I don't know, like when you talk to the like over that, it has to be English or like some other language. That's why I was a little bit hesitant. But other than I can, if that is the problem, like my language, then I can help you like, behind the
Yes.
door, and then I can make you things done like that.
You are always welcome to join. From our experience with SAPA, reach out for the communities back home. I think for health issues, there is some language other than English. For example, Arabic will be used. But since we are targeting the community, we're trying to keep it very simple. This is my understanding so far. If you guys, you can correct me. We are trying to make it very simple. They can understand it, and more importantly, they're encouraged to go and seek vaccine. So my expectation is going to be a lot of Arabic, but you are always welcome. We will help you with translation and everything. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think like that's what I'm saying. If it is that, like you can, I mean, I understand here and there, not like word by word. I learned it a little bit in back school, like high school, but that's okay. You guys can always help me, and also I can help you like how to develop the project. And probably what we can do is we can collect some data if that works. And I don't know like how to go with that. Probably it should be IRB exempt. Probably Dr. Nadir can tell me. We can write a journal or like something like that, like what are the people perspective regarding vaccine, or like, what are the things we are supposed to do to make them like, awareness of this vaccine, or what is their belief regarding the vaccine. So we can even write something, we can collect some data, and then, we can write a manuscript or submit like these are the things we need to work. And then, these are the belief for the general population in like African country or something like that also. So, that part also I can help if the language is a problem or something like that. So I'm just open for everything. Just let me know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sumi, for sharing your experience, and congratulations on having your project accepted. You truly deserve that. It's really wonderful. Your experience would certainly be so much helpful in the coming period. And thank you also, Lubaba, for clarifying all the aspects of putting the review or contacting Saba. Marwa, you raised your hand earlier. I'm sorry. You can go ahead.
Yeah, great points, Sumi. And thank you, Rubabo, for leading this, I would say, very huge and important project, especially at this time. And I would be happy to help in any way possible. And one of the things that I thought, it is like targeting a specific population is better to somewhat do some study, or like just not simple, but just understand what are the misconceptions in the community. So this way we can target specifically answering such questions. What are the misconceptions, the concept that they have, and accordingly the session can target answering these specific points, and this way it can be very helpful and deliver point like and be like more to the point. For example, one of the things that I heard from like my relatives, some people like they used to say like, oh, the vaccine will turn a man to a woman and a woman to a man, and by this this is the thing that some people had some misconception about the Pfizer and Moderna, and actually the one that is given in Sudan is actually AstraZeneca. So for example, this um, you need to know maybe even to clarify some points, and also for example, even from my family, they were concerned about the clothes and the thing that the incidence of clothes that is were recorded or reported with the use of AstraZeneca vaccine. So it's like as we have like more information now, and like there would be a better way to target their fears and misconceptions. Thank you. So I believe one thing, I believe Ali and maybe Ru'a and Khalid, who are like currently in Sudan in practice, they would have a good idea about what are the misconceptions, what are like people think, what are the hindrance to the to getting the vaccine.
Yeah, thank you, Marwa. Thank you also, Sumi, for this great suggestion. I think it would be a valuable addition. Regarding the misconceptions, there are so many here in Sudan, some of which are related to someone 2 days ago, he told me that this vaccine is linked to infertility. Others said you could turn paralyzed. I don't know where did they get this information from. But anyway, I think it's easy to diffuse these misconceptions. However, there are difficult patients. I have one example. I have one of my relatives. She has many comorbidities. She is old. And also she is a physician, retired one. When I tried to convince her to take the vaccine, she told me about the clots and so on. I told her the risk is minimal and so and so. But she said to me, I can do other protective measures. For instance, I can do distance, safety distance. I can do my mask and all the protective measures without harming myself. Why should I take the vaccine right now? So I think that was one of the hardest questions I had. So her point is that she should wait and for more studies, for showing more side effects maybe. And honestly, I didn't know what to say or how to answer. So I think we need to prepare also for difficult patients or difficult participants.
I will jump here just before Azan. So me, just to answer that, I think the plan usually with SAPA when they are about or they have a session, they will have like an advertisement for it like ahead of time, especially when they're doing the career development for like residents and students and all of this. So people will prepare their questions ahead of time and they will come ready for the session. So we will do the same, and we will consider all of the misconceptions that we are having through our relatives, friends, and everyone. So this is the core of the session, my understanding from Dr. Nadir. So the idea, just to keep the credit for Dr. Nadir, is Dr. Nadir's idea, and he's going to be with us, hopefully, inshallah. So yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Lubaba. I'm sorry all of you have lost connection briefly. Sumi, I see that you're raising your hand. Is that from earlier or?
Yeah, it was from earlier, but anyway, I regarding Ali's comment, I totally get it because I started a little bit, but I will be starting from June, basically the awareness, and we'll be talking to the population in June. So I'll get to know more, like what's exactly their perspective is. But what I knew from the physicians and nurse practitioner as well as from the pharmacist, as I'll be working in Detroit underserved community, but their belief is something like that because they're also behind from they have so much misconception regarding science. And there is a history also. I don't know, any of you probably might know that about the Tuskegee study back, African American history and all that. So they are a little bit behind for that, but because of this vaccine, especially COVID vaccine, they don't want to blame for that. But the thing is, they have misconception. But you have to deal, like as Ali said, there are some very tough patients and very tough comments. But we have to handle it very nicely because we have, at the same time, as a physician or as a public health worker, I think our responsibility is to build the trust. At the same time, we have to respect their opinion. We just cannot pressurize them. Hey, I'm the physician and I know the best, and then you have to take the vaccine. This is like force, and this is like against of autonomy of any person. They might not like it, and it will be like working different way. So instead of that, we have to counsel like something like that you are responsible for your own decision. If that is a parent, you have to say like, no one can take your child health decision. You are the best parents. She might decline the vaccine, does not necessarily mean that we have to express our attitude like, oh, she's a bad parent. No, that will we lose our respect, and we'll lose that means like we are not respecting their decision. She is the best mother, probably. I mean, everybody is the best mother for their parent, for their children, but that's our decision. So if she declined, we just have to, our duty is to respectfully convince them and build the trust. This is like science says that we have evidence that there is a very less chance of getting clot from this vaccine, whereas if you get COVID, you might have like more chances of getting clot and being died, or more serious infection or serious kind of reactions if you get vaccine. Then let's say like 1 in 1 million probably is getting clot due to COVID vaccine, whereas if you get COVID, you have more chances, something like. And this evidence says that. So and there are like 4 types of vaccine, like none of Johnson and Johnson probably is causing clot than the other things, but we are not giving that vaccine to you, something like that. We have to very patiently and respectfully convince them, instead hurting their autonomy. But I think if you all it's all, I used to think it is like, as I worked in Bangladesh also, but I used to think like it's probably back home, they people does not have much education, they do not have much awareness. But I feel now it is everywhere more or less same, it's it's the idea is about vaccine is like some people is still behind here as well. That's why I'm working, but probably I'll give you more idea when I will be starting actively from May, second week of May. And I can definitely share my experience towards the month or year and what I am ended up with. But that's so far my project, like I can present that also, probably not next, the following one, that how I got that proposal and what's my goal from next 3 months and how will I proceed. So I think this is very close goal, like where I'm working in Detroit, you guys will be working for like Sudan or like Sabah, but that's a good idea. Like we can you can target population and they can prepare their questions, and then we can prepare the answers, and then we all can discuss, and based on evidence and based on recent journal we can prepare our answer and we can answer them, like, and then we can see the like pre-test data and post-test data that through this conversation or through this like awareness, is that vaccination rate is increasing or we are building the trust, something like that. And we can write that even as a manuscript or as a abstract, anything we can do something like that also. So that's the overall like idea, and we have to move forward. Like this thing, this is tricky, it seems to be very easy, but it's not that easy, what I understood from my project. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Sumi. So I want to maybe add or clarify. The idea is to raise awareness, you are right, and help you guys help others. So there are options, and we don't have to limit ourselves to certain group. Your project is very, very valid as far as Detroit area and underserved population. So there are opportunities here. Lubaba took the lead to talk to SAPA, and traditionally they do webinar for education and they target Sudan. That's an option, but a different option will be we can target also groups here in the US. We can advertise the same way SAPA does and do small webinars, maybe a couple of times, different times, so that people can find the best time for them. And we can similarly do what Sumi did, targeting population, let's say Mulham in New York City. He can create a group of you guys who can volunteer, or other physician can help with that, like from SAPA, from different connection. So the idea is to target some group and apply your knowledge and maybe help raise the awareness. There are many options. So this is the first point I want to share with you. Lubaba, you lit one, and Sumi, you lit one. So the rest can think about different groups that can be helped. Then next point I want to raise is, if we can collect the most common misconception or hesitance, the reasons for hesitancy, and we can collect this as a group, the whole fellowship or fellows can do that here and outside in other countries, Sudan, Africa in general, Asia, Europe, and then we can populate a list of common questions or common reasons why people don't go that route or don't accept the vaccine. The plan will be how you handle these questions. So in order to process the hesitancy or to convince others, there are ways to do that, and there are evidence-based approaches similar to the one alcohol patient or drug user patients. You have to go through steps when you educate patient about smoking cessation, for instance. There are 5 steps, 5 questions, or the 5 A's or something like that. So maybe we can come up, or maybe there is some ways of handling these questions in a webinar way, like when a person, how do you, if they get heated, they ask very or present you with a difficult question, and they are very angry at you while you are presenting. So how you handle that? So I think there are ways of communication steps to convey, as illustrated or Sumi, you explain it very well. Talking to certain like parents or something like that. So maybe we can, next week is busy, the week after maybe we can try to see one part as a suggestion, how you present, how you answer, how you convince others, something like that, if we look at the literature review. And by that time also, if people are thinking about doing projects similar to Sumi, if there is some of you interested, maybe Sumi can share how we can handle the steps of doing that. And if needed IRB approval, we can start the process at MSU here or any other institution. And I'm sure there are some funds if we want to seek some money for that as well. So thank you too much for.
Can I add something? Yeah, that's Dr. Nadir actually explained it very well. Yeah, I was thinking as this is a geriatric fellowship, so we can target also geriatric population, like what is their opinion regarding COVID vaccines, and you know, if they are hesitant, and what is their like, what I'm thinking is like, what's their misconception or what's their barrier not to take it. Like most of the nursing home bounded patients in geriatric population, probably, you know, if the government authority or whatever, they offer the vaccine that they will take them to the nursing home, probably they might take it. Probably they might not have a probably vehicle to go for it and wait like, you know, 2 hours of line and all that to get it. So there may be some barriers for that also. So we can find out what are the barriers and misconception for geriatric population for vaccine hesitancy. We can just propose that to somewhere, like, you know, if we apply for some fund or something. And I'm sure that you know, like it is a very great work at this situation, and we need, the community needs this type of work, because when I applied for it, it was just boom. Like I was not like sure that, you know, it will be accepted or not, but as soon as I apply for it, like, you know, I told them that I want to decrease child mortality rate, but they are emphasizing me to work for actually the old people, especially because they tried the COVID-19, the geriatric population mortality is very high. So, you know, they are saying like, if you can, you know, like find out their misconception about the vaccine and their barriers, and that help their increase immunization rate, that will be a great work. So I think we can, this is a great platform to, you know, develop. So I can help that, develop that, you know, idea, and like, how do I do my proposal and all that, because my proposal also reviewed by MSU faculty, who is my mentor, will be my mentor throughout this project. So, you know, I have a little bit of idea last 4 months as I'm working with that. So we'll see and go from there probably.
Yes, thank you, Sumi. I also have a suggestion regarding that. I don't know if you can see it as relevant or applicable. Maybe in the time we have left in this fellowship, we can uh, make it into a research of why a certain group, for example, why people over 65 who have not yet gotten the vaccine uh, is afraid of it, maybe, or maybe we can incorporate it into a questionnaire that we can disseminate online, or maybe by another method. We can all work on it as a research. Uh, oh, maybe do you think that is applicable?
I think it's a great idea, Khalid. That's great.
Okay, then I will see into it. I will look into the researchers the research is done on this, and I will give you a summary of what I found in the WhatsApp group, and we can also discuss it more in next week's meeting. Thank you all. This has been really helpful.
I think you froze, Khalid.
The connection probably.
The connection, yeah. So anyone with any other comments or any suggestion or any questions before we adjourn, or I think the meeting is almost ending. So go ahead if you have.
Any of you have any other suggestion or I'm sorry, I've lost the connection briefly. Can you hear me? Yes,
Yeah.
I was saying that if none of you have any further questions or suggestions, maybe we can close this meeting for now, and we'll see up to next week, and we will discuss these various issues in the WhatsApp group. Thank you all. Thank you so much, Umnia, for the presentation, and thank you, Somi, for sharing your experience, and also congratulations again on this amazing project. And thank you, Dr. Nabil, for your guidance as always. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you, Khalid.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Khalid.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone. See you next week.
Thank you all. Have a good Ramadan.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Fasting
Somi.
probably, yeah. You know, it's
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we have a nice weekend.
You too.
Thanks.
Okay,
Have a
bye all.
good weekend.
Thank you. Have a good day. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Thank you, Khalid.
Bye.